Boston traffic was a snarl of brake lights and glistening asphalt when a number I didn't recognize lit up my phone. Against my better judgment, I answered, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear. Claire Anderson speaking. Ms. Anderson, a formal voice stated, my name is David Miller. I'm the attorney representing the estate of Robert Whitfield. Uncle Robert, the name landed like a stone in my gut. My mother's estranged brother, a man who existed more in hushed arguments and holiday tensions than in my actual life. I'm calling with unfortunate news, the lawyer continued. Your uncle passed away last week. Oh, was all I could muster. A strange, hollow sadness echoed within me. He was family, yet a stranger. There is another matter, David said, his tone unwavering. Mr. Whitfield's will names you as the sole beneficiary. The estate is valued at just over $9 million. Not including real estate assets. A dry, humorless sound escaped my lips. There must be a mistake. You have the wrong person. No, Miss Anderson, he insisted gently. He was very specific. The call ended, but my heart hammered against my ribs. Faded memories surfaced. My uncle's piercing gaze, a quiet comment once that I had his same stubborn streak, the crisp bills that arrived without fail on my birthday. $9 million. I thought of my husband, Mark, of his stalled photography career, and my soul-crushing ad agency job. This was it. This was the lifeline we'd prayed for. I wouldn't tell him over the phone. This news deserved a moment. I'd surprise him, maybe with that designer watch he'd been coveting. Leaving the downtown jeweler, a heavy rain began to fall. My mind raced with possibilities. A new home, an end to our debts, the family we'd put on hold. I was less than 20 minutes from our apartment when it happened. The semi beside me began to jackknife. I remember the high-pitched scream of tires, the impossible geometry of the trailer swinging into my lane, the violent shove of my car towards the guardrail. The world shattered into a symphony of breaking glass and twisting metal. The watchbox flew across the dashboard. And then, nothing. Part 2. I woke to a blinding whiteness and the sterile scent of antiseptic. A woman in scrubs was checking my vitals. You're at St. Mary's Hospital, she said softly. You've been in a serious accident. My throat was raw, my first thought a frantic search for one person. My husband, did he come? The nurse's eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. That small hesitation confirmed my deepest fears. We've called the number on your file several times, she said carefully. We left messages. The morphine cocktail made my thoughts swim. How long? This is your second day with us, she answered. You were unconscious until a few hours ago. You have a concussion, a fractured wrist, and several broken ribs. You're very lucky. 2 days. 2 days, and he hadn't come. My phone? I rasped. She retrieved it from a plastic bag. The screen was a spiderweb of cracks, but it turned on. No missed calls from Mark. No texts asking if I was okay. Just work emails and a few messages from friends who had somehow heard the news before my own husband. My fingers trembled as I typed, I'm awake. At the hospital. Please come. His reply came minutes later. Tied up with a project. We'll try to get there later. No questions. No relief. Just a cold wall of indifference. The next 2 days were a blur of pain and waiting. My mother visited, her face a mask of worry. My friend Lindsay brought flowers that wilted by the window. Of Mark, there was nothing. By the 5th day, my nurse, a kind woman named Caris Vance, had become my confidant. She'd share stories of her children during her breaks, her presence, a small comfort in the echoing silence of my room. Are you certain your husband knows you're here? She asked one afternoon, her expression unreadable. He knows, I said, the bitterness sharp on my tongue. He doesn't care. That evening, I opened Instagram. My hand shook. And there he was, tagged in a photo at some chic art gallery, a flute of champagne in his hand. His arm was wrapped around a young, dark-haired woman in a sequined dress. Celebrating the future, the caption read. My breath hitched. A work event, I told myself. A colleague, but when I clicked on her profile, my world tilted on its axis. It was filled with pictures of them, together. A trip to the coast months ago, dinners I didn't know about, a photo of him kissing her, dated 2 weeks before the crash. I was staring at the screen when Caris entered. When she saw the photos on my phone, her expression wasn't one of surprise, but of grim confirmation. Claire, she said, her voice low, there's something you should know. Mark has been telling people that you didn't make it. I just stared at her as the room began to spin. He's with her now. she added gently. As far as the world is concerned, you're gone. Part 3. That's not possible, I whispered, the words feeling foreign and flimsy. I didn't believe Kerry's. The idea was too monstrous. A plot from a twisted film. How do you know that? I demanded, my voice cracking. She moved closer, her gaze checking the hallway. One of our orderlies knows your husband. He saw a social media post last weekend for your memorial. It was held at a wine bar downtown. A memorial. For me, while I was lying here, fighting to breathe. Karis took my hand. You need to talk to someone you trust. Before you do anything else. The only person I could think of was Lindsay. She arrived the next morning, her face drawn and pale. She couldn't look me in the eye. I wanted to tell you, she started, perching on the edge of the bed. Claire, he's been with her for months. Her name is Samantha. I think people assumed you knew and were separated. I shook my head. A silent, desperate denial. Who is she? A student, I think, much younger. After the accident, Mark told everyone you were gone. And then, a week later, they were married at the courthouse. Married? The word didn't compute. How could he marry someone else when I was still his wife? When I was still alive? Lindsay showed me her phone. A picture from Samantha's account. Her in a simple white dress, holding a small bouquet, with Mark at her side, beaming, looking happier than I had seen him in years. I am so sorry, Claire, she whispered. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just sat there, frozen. The image of their smiling faces burning into my memory. That night I scrolled relentlessly through Samantha's life, our lives intertwined in a tapestry of lies. A romantic weekend in May, he'd told me he was on a solo photography retreat. An expensive dinner in August, the same week he'd claimed he couldn't afford to fix the leak in our bathroom. The betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was a calculated erasure of me. By dawn, the numbness had receded, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I needed to understand the scope of his plan, and I needed to stop him. When Karis came in with my breakfast tray, she took one look at my face and stopped. You have a plan. I'm calling David Miller, I said. Your uncle's lawyer? Yes, I said, my voice steady. If my husband is pretending I'm dead, it's not just about his new girlfriend. It's about the inheritance. Part 4, the lawyer's warning. David Miller's office, a voice answered. David, it's Claire Anderson, I said, my voice tight. I'm alive, and I need to know if you've spoken to my husband. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Claire? My God. Yes, he contacted my office the day after the accident. He informed me you had passed at the scene. I squeezed the phone, my fractured wrist screaming in protest. And you took his word for it. He provided a preliminary police report that mentioned a fatality. He came to my office. Claire. He had your marriage license, a published death notice, even a sworn statement from a supposed witness. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Why? Under state law, David explained, his voice grim, if a beneficiary is deceased, their legal spouse is often next in line to inherit. With you gone, he was positioning himself to claim the entire estate. The air rushed out of my lungs. He was trying to steal my inheritance. And he would have succeeded, David said, if not for the rather inconvenient fact of your survival. A soft knock at the door made me look up. Karis was there with my chart, and I waved her off, needing privacy. So what do we do? I asked. I can file to suspend the probate proceedings immediately, but we need to be cautious. If he learns you're awake and aware, he may become unpredictable. This man has already committed fraud and perjury, Claire. He is dangerous. What are you saying? I'm saying a man who fakes his wife's death for $9 million is capable of anything. Don't let him know you've discovered his plan. Don't see him alone. We need to control the narrative from this point forward. After I hung up, I stared at the wall, my world rewritten. Mark hadn't just moved on. He had tried to bury me and dance on my grave for a fortune. Karis came back in, her expression concerned. What did he say? I told her everything. The fake death notice, the legal scheme, the lawyer's warning. She listened intently, her arms crossed. So let me get this straight, she said, her voice low. Your husband is living it up with his new bride on your uncle's money, all while believing you're dead and buried. That's about the size of it." She let out a short, sharp laugh, devoid of any humor. "Good. Then let him think you're a ghost. Ghosts can be very hard to fight." Part 5. The first move. 3 days later, I was discharged. Every breath was a painful reminder of my broken ribs. But my mind felt clear for the first time since the crash. Carries helped me into a set of clothes Lindsay had brought. "You're not actually going home, are you?" she asked, her concern obvious. "No," I said. "Not my home, anyway." Lindsay was waiting to drive me to her apartment, a small, safe haven far from my old life. Stepping out of the hospital and into the crisp autumn air felt surreal, like returning to a world I no longer belonged to. But inside Lindsay's guest room, I felt a profound sense of peace. For the first time in over a week, I wasn't being watched. The next morning, David called. "The estate is frozen, Claire. Legally, he can't touch a cent more. The good news is, he doesn't know that yet." "Good," I said. "Keep it that way." My first move was to become a ghost. I spent hours online, not on my own accounts, but on Samantha's. She was a prolific oversharer, documenting every moment of her new, luxurious life. It was a digital breadcrumb trail of their activities since my death. An extravagant dinner the night I was in surgery. A new diamond ring, a wedding ring, posted 2 days later. And then I saw it, a geotagged post at a private bank. Securing the future, she had written. I saved everything. Screenshots, dates, locations. Lindsay and I created a detailed timeline, a map of their lies. One evening I took a rideshare to Lexington, to my uncle's house. I had the driver park a block away. And there, in the driveway of the home that was supposed to be mine, was Mark's car. He was already there. He was living in my uncle's house. I called David, my voice trembling with rage. How is he in the house if the estate is frozen? He likely had himself appointed temporary executor, claiming he was managing the estate on behalf of his deceased wife. David explained. He can't sell it, but he can occupy it. For now, he's a squatter who doesn't know he's about to be evicted. A cold, precise plan began to form in my mind. "He's not just going to see me again, David," I said. "The whole world is." Part 6. Setting the trap. The plan came together over strategy sessions in Lindsay's kitchen and encrypted calls with David. A direct confrontation would be my word against his, and he was a master manipulator. I had to expose him in a way he couldn't spin. I needed a stage. Step 1 was the venue. Samantha was hosting a showcase of her photography at a chic gallery downtown in 2 weeks. Mark, her supportive new husband, was listed as a, quote, featured artist. It was perfect. Step 2 was ammunition. David began the legal process of subpoenaing every document Mark had filed since the accident. The falsified death certificates, the fraudulent witness affidavits, the probate petitions. "This is a mountain of felonies, Claire," he'd said. "We just need him to confess on tape." Step 3 was the reveal. I needed witnesses. His new friends, his colleagues, the art world patrons he was so desperate to impress. And his new wife. I became a phantom. I cut my hair and started wearing a pair of non-prescription glasses. I stayed off the streets and away from anyone who might recognize me. Carers, my ally from the hospital, managed to retrieve my wedding ring from my apartment, smuggling it out before Mark could sell it. I wore it on a chain under my shirt, a cold, heavy reminder. One night, scrolling through the event's hashtag, I saw a new photo from Samantha. It was a beautifully composed, black and white shot of my uncle's garden. Our sanctuary, the caption read. The word "our" was a twisting knife. Lindsay and I rehearsed the night of the gallery meticulously. She would go in first. A visible distraction. I would arrive later. I chose a simple black dress. I didn't want to be a spectacle. I wanted to be a ghost from his past, appearing in the flesh. The final piece of the puzzle was a private investigator David hired. He would pose as an art buyer, equipped with a high-fidelity microphone and a lapel pin that was actually a camera. My only job was to get Mark to talk. Part 7. The warning. I was going over my planned script late one night when Lindsay silently slid her phone onto the table. A text from a blocked number glowed on the screen. Unknown. Heard you made it. Watch your back. He's not happy. My blood ran cold. Who is this? Lindsay shook her head, her eyes wide. I have no idea. It just came through. The anonymous warning shattered my carefully constructed sense of control. Someone knew I was alive, which meant the information could get back to Mark. The clock was now ticking, loud and fast. I called David immediately. What if he knows? If he knew for certain, he'd be making a move to discredit you, not sending cryptic texts, David reasoned. Assume this is a warning from a third party. It doesn't change the plan, it just raises the stakes. He was right, but paranoia began to set in. The next day, I went to a coffee shop across the street from Lindsay's building, a deliberate test. I sat by the window, pretending to read, but my eyes scanned every car, every passerby. For nearly an hour, nothing seemed out of place. Then I noticed it. A dark sedan parked down the block. A man was in the driver's seat, cap pulled low, just watching. He didn't follow when I left, but the image of him stayed with me. We should move up the timeline, Lindsay urged that night. Don't wait for the gallery. No, I said, my resolve hardening. He has spent months crafting his story. I only get one chance to write the ending. It has to be public. It has to be irrefutable. We added a new layer to the plan, a decoy. On the night of the gallery, Lindsay would post a slightly blurry, older photo of us at dinner, tagging it at a restaurant an hour away. If anyone was watching, they'd be looking in the wrong place. But the warning had fundamentally changed things. This was no longer just about justice or money. I was planning to expose a conman. But what if I was walking into a murderer's trap? Part 8, The Reveal. The night of the gallery was damp and cold. I dressed in silence, my movements deliberate. The black dress felt like armor. I was no longer the woman Mark had married. I was her ghost, come back to haunt him. Lindsay left first. At precisely 8:15 p.m., my phone buzzed with the notification. She had posted our decoy photo. I slipped out of the building and into the waiting car of the private investigator. The gallery was a cavern of exposed brick and white walls, filled with the murmur of conversation and the clinking of wine glasses. I moved through the periphery, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. Then I saw him. He was holding court, a confident smile on his face, Samantha hanging on his arm. He looked untouchable. The investigator gave me a subtle nod from across the room. The camera was active. I took a deep breath and began to walk. I stopped a few feet away from him, waiting for him to turn. When he did, I spoke, my voice just loud enough to cut through the noise. "You look well for a widower, Mark." He froze. His face was a rapid-fire progression of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, and then a flash of pure, cold fear. His salesman's smile faltered. "Claire," he stammered, grabbing my arm to pull me aside. "What is this?" Everyone thought that I was dead. I finished, pulling my arm free. My voice was louder now, and a few nearby conversations faltered. "Is that what you told them? After you filed the forged death certificate to steal my uncle's money?" Samantha stared at me, then at Mark. "Mark, what is she talking about?" "She's not well," he said quickly, his eyes darting around the room. "She's been through a terrible trauma." "My only trauma is you," I shot back, my voice ringing with clarity. "I remember everything, Mark. The lies, the new wife, moving into my house before my body was even cold." A wave of whispers rippled through the crowd. Phones were starting to emerge. The performance was over. "You didn't just want me gone," I said, my voice dropping to a steely calm. "You wanted me erased." His mask of civility finally cracked, revealing the predator beneath. But he was trapped, cornered by 100 watching eyes. Part 9, The Fallout. The gallery fell into a heavy, charged silence, broken only by the frantic whispers of the crowd. "Mark, is this true?" An older man, clearly an investor, demanded. Mark held up his hands, attempting to reclaim control. "Please, everyone, this is a private matter. My wife is clearly confused." "I'm not your wife anymore," I interjected. "You annulled our marriage the moment you declared me dead." Samantha had gone pale. I could see the dawning horror in her eyes as she looked from me to the man beside her, truly seeing him for the first time. "You told me she died," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You told me we were free." "We are," he insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. David had slipped into the gallery unnoticed, and was now standing near the entrance, his own phone recording. He caught my eye and gave a slight nod. "We had it." Mark turned back to me, his voice a venomous hiss. The hidden microphone caught perfectly. "You have no idea what you've just done." "Oh, I think I do," I replied. "I've just started." Samantha took a shaky step back from him. "I wasn't your new beginning," she said, the realization hitting her. "I was just your alibi." With that, she turned and pushed her way through the stunned crowd. That was my cue. "I'll be seeing you in court, Mark," I said. Then I turned and walked toward the exit, David falling into step beside me. The cool night air felt like a release. "It's done," David said once we were in his car. "We have him on fraud, perjury, forgery. It's more than enough." "I want him to lose everything," I said, watching the city lights smear across the Rain Street window. "He will," David assured me. Then he added, "But this isn't over. A cornered animal is a dangerous one." As he spoke, I glanced in the side view mirror. Headlights from a dark sedan appeared behind us, keeping a steady, deliberate distance. Mark had lost the battle, but he clearly wasn't ready to surrender the war. Part 10. The End. David made 3 sharp, unsignaled turns. The sedan stayed with us, a silent, menacing shadow. "Okay, that's not a coincidence," he muttered, pulling into the bright, sterile parking lot of an all-night diner. Inside, we slid into a booth. The smell of stale coffee, a strange comfort. Across the street, the sedan pulled over and killed its lights. "We can't go to Lindsay's," I said. "We can't go anywhere until this is finished." "What are you suggesting?" "No more waiting," I said. "We end it tonight." David made a call. 20 minutes later, the private investigator joined us, his laptop open. He had already uploaded the video from the gallery. David quickly drafted an email. It was simple. A link to the unlisted video, and a legal document relinquishing all claims to the estate. The ultimatum was clear. Sign within 24 hours, or the video goes to the district attorney and every news outlet in Boston. We hit send. Less than a minute later, my phone rang. A blocked number. I answered and put it on speaker. "Hello, Mark." His voice was quiet, chillingly calm. "You think you're clever, Claire." "I think you're caught," I replied, my own voice steady. "That video is already in several places. Even if something were to happen to me, it gets released. It's over." There was a long pause. "This doesn't end here." "For you it does," I said, and disconnected the call. Across the street, the sedan's engine started. It pulled away from the curb and disappeared into the night. The following morning, a signed, notarized copy of the relinquishment arrived at David's office. It was done. The legal proceedings were swift. Mark was charged with multiple counts of fraud and perjury. Samantha filed for an annulment, citing fraud. The last time I saw him was across a courthouse hallway. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a hollowed-out emptiness. Our eyes met, and he looked away first. Weeks later, I finally went back to my uncle's house. The gardens were overgrown, but the air was clean and still. Standing on the porch, I realized this was never just about the money. It was about reclaiming a life he had tried to steal and bury. He had tried to write my ending. Now, I was finally starting my own story.